One phrasal verb can mean to sexually excite somebody, and the exact same phrasal verb can mean to suddenly become angry with somebody. Okay, that's the exact same phrasal verb. The only difference is you can put a pronoun in the middle. Now, you guys need to guess what this phrasal verb is. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Do you know this phrasal verb? Hi everyone, and welcome to your 30-day phrasal verb challenge. This is day 1, the very first day of your challenge, and today I'm going to give you 5 quick tips to really help you to learn phrasal verbs quicker and easier. But before I show you those tips, I just want to let you know that this is part of a full course. You can sign up at the link in the description, and as well as one video every day for 30 days, you'll also get tons of material to really help you remember those phrasal verbs and practice those phrasal verbs. So you won't only be passively studying by watching the videos, you'll also be actively practicing the verbs, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to remember those phrasal verbs and then use them in a conversation. So if you click the link in the description, you can sign up there and you'll get a PDF with every single video of all the extra phrasal verbs and meanings. You'll also get a flashcard set with every single video to really help you practice, and you'll get quizzes and games as well so that you can practice and learn in different ways. So it's not just super boring like a list of phrasal verbs. You'll be using different games, different techniques to help you remember those phrasal verbs. So the link's in the description if you want to sign up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll get a notification every time a new video comes out, and you'll be able to follow along with this challenge a lot easier, and you won't miss a single day of your 30-day phrasal verb challenge. And make sure you give this video a like if you learned something new today. Right, so let's get into it. Your first tip for learning phrasal verbs is to learn them in context, okay? Learning lists of phrasal verbs will not help you, okay? Just learning them with their definitions, it's not helpful, plus it's really boring. Learning them in context will really help. If you're reading or if you're watching TV, you can see better how those phrasal verbs are used and what situations you can use them in. So just to have a little practice, I'm going to give you a context and I want you guys to guess what this phrasal verb means in this context. Okay, so you've got a sentence. He thought he'd got away with cheating on the test until the teacher asked him to stay after class. Okay, what do you think this phrasal verb means? He thought he got away with cheating on the test until the teacher asked him to stay after class. So get away with. I'm going to give you 3 seconds. Look at this in context and have a guess what you think it means. Okay, you've got 3 seconds. Let me know in the comments what you think this means. All right, off you go. Okay, what do you reckon? Get away with means to escape punishment from something. Okay, if you get away with something, you escape punishment after you've done something bad. Okay, so another sentence that you could use it in, for example, nobody saw him steal the laptop, so he got away with it. Okay, he got no punishment. This is an inseparable verb, okay, so everything comes at the end. You get away with something, either it or whatever crime or bad thing you've done. Okay, so let's take a look at another sentence in context with a different phrasal verb. Again, I want you guys to guess what this phrasal verb means in this context. So we've run out of milk, can you get some from the supermarket? Okay, what do you think run out of means in this sentence? We've run out of milk. Can you get some from the supermarket? I'll give you 3 seconds. Again, take a guess. Let me know in the comments what you think it means. Okay, off you go. Okay, this means to finish something, like a supply of something. Okay, so you can run out of time, you can run out of money, you can run out of food, any supply of something that you use until there's nothing left, you run out of. Okay, let's look at another sentence in context then. Can I borrow your charger? My phone has run out of battery. Okay, so my phone is kind of finished. The battery is finished in my phone. All right, so that's tip number 1 for learning phrasal verbs. Learn them in context, whether it's reading, whether it's speaking, or whether you're watching TV. Note down the context that you see it in and remember it. Okay. Right, on to number 2 then. Tip number 2, separable or not. Okay, so a big thing about phrasal verbs is, and why they're so confusing, is that they can be separable or inseparable, meaning that the phrasal verb is made up of a verb and a preposition, right? Like get is your verb, out is your preposition. Now, in some verbs, you can take them apart and you can put a pronoun or a noun in the middle. They are separable, okay? So if I say get it out, that verb is separable. But some verbs you can't do that, and you always need to keep the verb and the preposition together, and your pronoun or your object comes after the verb, okay? Now, this is where it gets tricky because phrasal verbs can change meaning depending on if they're separable or not. Meaning that the same phrasal verb, if you separate it, it can have a completely different meaning. And it can actually be quite embarrassing sometimes if you mess that up. For example, let's take a look. One phrasal verb can mean to sexually excite somebody, okay? This phrasal verb would be separable, and the exact same phrasal verb that's inseparable can mean to suddenly become angry with somebody. Okay, that's the exact same phrasal verb. The only difference is you can put a pronoun in the middle. Now, you guys need to guess what this phrasal verb is. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Do you know this phrasal verb? So to sexually excite somebody, if you put something in the middle, so you somebody, or to suddenly become angry with somebody. Okay, so you somebody, it's inseparable. I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds. Take a guess. What do you think this phrasal verb is? Have a guess and then I'll let you know in a second. All right, off you go. Okay, did you guys get it? What do you reckon? This phrasal verb is to turn somebody on, okay? Obviously, if you use something, that also changes completely the meaning, but if we just go with somebody, you turn somebody on, you sexually excite someone. For example, okay? She's gorgeous, she really turns me on. Okay, you don't necessarily need to touch somebody in order to turn them on. You can do anything, and if it sexually excites them, it turns them on. So this is separable. So turn on, if it's separable, means to sexually excite someone. If it's inseparable, to turn on somebody, it means you suddenly become really angry with somebody. Okay, for example, we were having a really good time, and then he suddenly turned on me. Okay, he suddenly got really angry with me, and I don't know why. So it's inseparable. All right, so this tip is absolutely essential. You need to know this. Are verbs separable or inseparable? You can look in any dictionary, online dictionary, and it will tell you how to use a specific phrasal verb, okay? But make sure you know how to use the verb, where you can put the pronoun. Okay, during this course, I will tell you every verb we look at, I'll tell you if it's separable or inseparable, and you can also download the PDF from the full course, the link's in the description, and you'll be able to see all of the phrasal verbs there and whether they're separable or inseparable or if they change meanings. All right. Right, let's have a quick practice then. You've already learned 4 phrasal verbs up to now, so we're going to practice to see if you were listening what those phrasal verbs meant. So you guys need to fill in the gap here with the 4 phrasal verbs I've taught you so far. What goes in this gap? Okay, their kids are so spoilt. They let them murder. Okay, this is kind of technically an idiom as well, but the idiom includes a phrasal verb. Okay, their kids are so spoiled they let them murder. What do you think goes in this gap from the 4 phrasal verbs I just taught you? I'm going to give you 3 seconds. Have a look. Let me know in the comments what you think it is, and then I'll tell you. Off you go. Fill in that gap. Okay, what do we reckon? Did you get it? Okay, their kids are so spoiled they let them get away with murder. Okay, so this is part of an idiom. If someone gets away with murder, they get away with everything. Okay, so they do tons of stuff and they're never punished. Nobody ever says anything. They get away with murder. Okay, so it's not literal. Could be literal, but in this case it's not. All right, so heading on to tip number 3 then. This is a really great tip, okay? This will make you sound a lot more natural when you're using phrasal verbs. The tip is that usually if you have a verb that comes after your phrasal verb, that verb 9 times out of 10 will be in ing form. It will be verb ing, okay? And this is because phrasal verbs end in prepositions. And after prepositions, we use a verb and ing. Okay? Again, it is a rule of thumb, but obviously there are exceptions to every rule. But 9 times out of 10, if you're using a verb after a phrasal verb, it will be in ing form. For example, let's take a look at another phrasal verb then. To see to. Okay, if you see to something, it means you make sure that something is done. Okay, now this verb would take a verb and ing after, even though it ends in to, which is weird because normally after to you use an infinitive, right? But in the case of phrasal verbs, even with to, you would use a verb and ing. For example, I'll see to feeding the dogs while you're gone. Okay, I'll see to feeding, not I'll see to feed. I'll see to feeding, okay? So in this instance, it means I'll make sure to feed the dogs. Okay, I'll see to feeding the dogs. Okay, so see to is inseparable. You use it with a verb and ing, or you can also use it with a noun as well. You see to something. All right, let's take a look at another verb then with ing. To get down to. Get down to means to start. It's a synonym for start. Okay, so let's see in context then. I'll have to get down to studying. Otherwise, I'll fail the exam. Okay, so you can see that the verb that follows this phrasal verb, get down to, comes with an ing, studying, even though it ends in to. This is correct. I know it looks weird because you've got to followed by an ing, but when it comes to phrasal verbs, it is correct. Get down to, again, is inseparable. You can't put a pronoun in the middle or anything like that, okay? You get down to doing something. All right, let's have another practice then. Now we're going to have some writing practice. So you guys have learned 6 phrasal verbs so far. What we're going to do is you guys are going to write some sentences in the comments using these phrasal verbs, and then I will give you feedback. I'll correct you if you need it. So this is a really good opportunity for you guys to get some feedback now and make sure that you've understood all of the phrasal verbs we've looked at so far and that you know how to use them correctly. So please do leave a comment if you want some feedback. But first of all, we're going to take a look at our phrasal verb wheel so that we can get some phrasal verbs for you to write about. All right, so I'm going to give my wheel a spin, and when it lands on a verb, I want you guys to write a sentence in the comments using the phrasal verb it lands on, okay? So we've got turn somebody on. Okay, so remember the difference. This verb could be separable or inseparable. In this case, it's separable. So try and remember the meaning for this phrasal verb and write me a sentence in the comments. And I'll let you know if you're using it correctly, okay? You've got 5 seconds. Write a sentence in the comments using this phrasal verb. Off you go. All right, hopefully you've written me a sentence there. I'm going to spin my wheel 2 more times so that you get quite a bit of practice here. Okay, let's take a look. Your next phrasal verb is Okay, now you've got the opposite. To turn on, somebody. Okay, so inseparable, have a think, what was the meaning? Again, write me a sentence in the comments and I'll correct you. You've got 5 seconds, off you go. All right, and our final spin, let's give it one more. Okay, again, please do leave a comment if you want me to correct you, if you want some feedback, so that you know if you're using them correctly. To get down to something, that's your final phrasal verb. Write a sentence in the comments using this phrasal verb and I'll correct you. Off you go. All right, so hopefully you've had a decent practice there. I will come round after and take a look at all of your comments and let you know if you're using them correctly. But for now, we're going to head back to the rest of our tips and phrasal verbs. All right, so tip number 4 then is to learn other meanings. Right, this is another really important tip. So phrasal verbs have tons of different meanings and they can be used in a lot of different contexts, which is why, again, it's so kind of difficult to learn them, because they might mean one thing in one context and a completely other thing in another. So if you only know one meaning of a phrasal verb and then you hear someone use it in a completely different context, you're going to be really confused. Right, so every time you learn a phrasal verb, I'd suggest that you kind of go to an online dictionary, look it up, and see if there are any other meanings or what other contexts that you could use it in, right? So for now, we're just going to have a quick practice. I'm going to give you a few different meanings of a phrasal verb now, and I want to see if you can guess what phrasal verb I'm talking about, okay? So this phrasal verb has tons of meanings. I'm just going to give you 3. Remember, if you want to know the rest of the meanings of the phrasal verbs, you can download the PDF from the full course. The link's in the description if you want to sign up, and then you'll have all of the extra meanings that this phrasal verb has. But for now, you guys have to guess what it is. So the first meaning is to exercise, and the other 2 meanings it has, it can either mean to have a good result or to find a solution for something. Okay, so have a think. What phrasal verb could this be? To find a solution, to have a good result, or to exercise? Let me know in the comments what you think this phrasal verb is. You've got 5 seconds. Have a think, and then I'll let you know what it is. Off you go, have a think. All right, what do you guys reckon? Do you know this one? You might do. Is to work out. Okay, so work out is just a synonym for exercise. For example, I work out at the gym twice a week. Okay, in this context, work out is inseparable. Okay, just somebody works out. The other 2 meanings I showed you, it can be inseparable. Okay, so in this meaning, work out is inseparable. Okay, somebody works out. But in the other 2 meanings I showed you, it can be separable. You can put a pronoun in the middle. Okay, so if we take a look at number 8, to have a good result, let's have a closer look. We were worried at first, but it worked out well in the end. Okay, so it has a good result. In the end, it had a good result. It worked out well. Okay, and then looking over at number 9, to find a solution for something. Okay, so they weren't getting on very well, but they worked it out eventually. So you can see that this is separable here. Okay, so you work it out, or you work something out, you find a solution for something. So just bear in mind that when you're learning phrasal verbs, there may be other meanings for it. So you can just check out the other meanings in a dictionary, just so that you're aware of most contexts it could be used in. Okay. Right, and heading on to our final tip then, number 5, is to learn synonyms. Okay, so some phrasal verbs have one-word synonyms, and it's a really great trick to learn the synonym, and then whenever you're trying to use it, is to kind of switch it out in your brain, like switch out that synonym for a phrasal verb, and then you'll sound much more natural. So usually the one-word synonyms of phrasal verbs sound quite formal to native speakers. if you're using a one-word synonym for that verb, it will sound a bit off. It won't sound very natural. So instead you can switch out that kind of formal verb for the phrasal verb, which is more informal, which is why we use them when we're talking informally usually. Okay, so if there is a one-word synonym, try to learn that synonym and then switch it out. For example, let's take a look. Number 10, to get into, the synonym for get into is discuss. Okay, so if you think of the word discuss, if you're kind of translating from your native language, or if you're thinking in English but you're thinking of the word discuss, you can learn the word get into, and when you get to that word discuss in your mind, you can just try and like switch it out, and that will sound a lot more natural. So for example, you could say, I don't want to get into it right now. We can talk about it later. Which means I don't want to discuss it right now. But if you said discuss it, it would sound a bit too formal to a native speaker. Okay, so you can just say get into instead. Get into is inseparable as well. You can't put anything in the middle. You get into it, or you get into talking about something, or you get into something. Okay, so that was my final tip for you, but we're going to have one last test before you go to check that you were listening. So let's take a look at our final test then. So any of the phrasal verbs I taught you today could go in this gap. Okay, so you've got 10 phrasal verbs to think about. Have a think, what would finish this sentence? So right, let's get down to it, otherwise we'll time. Okay, I have actually added a phrasal verb there, get down to it, which if you remember means start. Okay, right, let's start. Right, let's get down to it, otherwise we'll time. What do you think goes in that gap? I'll give you 3 seconds, have a think. Let me know in the comments if you know, okay? Off you go, have a think. Okay, what do you reckon? Do you get it? This one is to run out of, okay? Right, let's get down to it, let's start. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. Okay, remember run out of was like finish a supply of something or use up a supply of something. Okay, and they are all of your tips and phrasal verbs for day 1 of your phrasal verb challenge. If you haven't signed up to the full course already, please do. The link is in the description, and you'll get tons of extra material to really help you not only study these phrasal verbs, but practice them and actually start using them as well. And it'll make it a lot easier for you to remember them as well. And then you can actually use them while you're speaking. So you'll get tons of PDFs, flashcard games, tons of stuff to help you. The link's in the description if you want to sign up. Make sure you give this video a like if you learned something new today, and join me tomorrow for day 2 of your phrasal verb challenge, where we'll be looking at phrasal verbs for talking about studying. All right, I'll see you there. Bye.